we get to take back control. How do we do this? We start listening. We start listening to the words that come out of our mouth. We start listening to the thoughts that we think. Sometimes it's easier to hear them by writing them out. So I know we talk a lot about scripting as a manifestation technique, where you write about what you want to manifest as if it's already happened. But before we even get there, if you feel like none of these techniques have been working for you and you feel like there's some fundamental thing that's in your way that's blocking you, first, journal about it. Let yourself just free write. Let yourself just write what you're thinking. You don't need to try and sound positive or anything. Just write what you're thinking. Then once you've written it all out, all the ways that you feel about how hard everything is and how what things don't work out and how you're frustrated because nothing is ever working, go through what you've written and highlight any of the bold statements that you made that are like rules that you're creating for your game. Every time you see yourself write something like, it's so hard, or I always struggle with, or nothing ever seems to do this, or everyone is always, or no one is interested in this. And you're creating these actually inaccurate statements. I worked with some people who were struggling to get customers in their business, and I listened to their language, and they would say things to me like, oh, I've spoken to everyone and no one's interested. And when they said it, it sounded very fair enough. It sounded very normal to them. Whereas when I heard it, I thought, wow, what kind of story are you creating there? So I asked them, I said, you telling me that you've actually spoken to every single person on this planet? Wow, you've spoken to 8 billion people? They said, no, I've not spoken to 8 billion people. I was like, but you said everyone. You said I spoke to everyone, and you said no one's interested. So you've spoken to all the 8 billion people, and they all said no, did they? Well, no, okay, how many people did you speak to? Probably 10, 20 people. Oh, out of those 10 or 20 people, you didn't find anyone so far who's interested. But look what happens when somebody says, I spoke to everyone and no one's interested. What does that do to the brain? The brain is going, this is how it's going to be forever. The brain is going, there's no point me trying to move forwards because it's just going to be the same as that story. And the brain is quite happy to hear that you spoke to everyone and no one's interested. It's almost like a weight lifted, isn't it? Because then you don't have to try again. And it's like a weight lifted because it means that when you fail in the future, you saw it coming, so it's going to hurt less. You don't want to get your feelings hurt. You want to get your hopes up. So we often say these things like, oh, it never works. No one's going to be interested. I've tried everything. It's really hard. We say these things almost as a way to avoid disappointment. So what we do is we completely take ourselves out of the game. We make it 100% certain that it's not going to happen for us, but at least we're safe. At least we know. At least we're not going to get our feelings hurt. And if you want to hold on to that and you want to stay stuck in that pattern and you want to keep fulfilling that prophecy and you want that to keep being your reality, okay, that's the perfect mindset to have for that. But if you say to me, for example, if you say, I want to manifest this, I want to manifest more change, I want to manifest a successful business, I want to manifest a beautiful relationship. If you really want that, then guess what you're going to need to do? You're going to need to have the courage to let go of that story. You're going to need to go into the scary unknown. But guess what exists in the scary unknown? The possibility of it actually happening for you. And the more you tell yourself the positive story, that it's possible, I can do it, and you look at other people and you go, oh, if they can do it, that means I can do it too. If they can do it, I can do it. It's possible. Everything works out. I'm gonna get there. I know I can do it. You're gonna need to make that your dominant mindset. If you say that to yourself just once or twice, and then when the next obstacle comes along, or the next thing that doesn't go perfectly to your plan happens, what's gonna happen? You're going to spiral again into the negative neural pathways. See, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have got my hopes up. I told you nothing ever works out. That's because the negative stories are still your dominant mindset. If you can persevere with the empowered, limitless, positive stories that argue for your potential rather than argue for your limitations, if you can persevere with them enough to the point where they become your dominant neural pathways, i.e. you've given more power, more energy, more time, more focus to the new story, that it becomes the way that your subconscious mind is wired. It becomes the neural pathway that your mind automatically shoots energy down. And so those are your automatic thoughts. When that is the case, number one, your mind will notice more good things, more opportunities, will guide you towards the best people, the best opportunities, the best ideas. But what it also means is that when obstacles come, when a negative person says something, when you make a mistake, you're not going to make it mean that you're doomed and that it's impossible. And instead, it's barely going to affect you. It might bring you down for a moment, but it's not connected to all of these catastrophic stories about why you're not good enough, because your dominant story is that, well, you're going to get there and it's possible for someone like you and I can do it. So when an obstacle comes, you just find a solution. You just navigate your way through it. You don't make it mean anything about how you're not good enough. See, oh my gosh, maybe this is a sign. Maybe the universe is punishing me. Maybe this is a sign that I'm not good enough and it's not meant for me. No, you'll just see the obstacle, navigate the obstacle, and keep moving forwards. So that's the power of changing your pathways in your mind to the point where it's your dominant. Not just a little bit, not just, I'm going to say affirmations a couple of times and hope that they work. When you make it your dominant thought pattern, then you can allow yourself to eventually get there. It doesn't mean that everything in life is going to be completely different, but it does mean that your subconscious mind will notice way more things that are going to guide you in the right direction, rather than notice all the things that will keep you from it. That's the difference between the mindsets. One is taking you towards everything you've ever wanted, and one is vehemently holding you away and holding you back from all of it. That is the difference. Let's take a moment right now. Let's reflect on this, because the law of attraction is actually the law of radiation and attraction. And whatever we are radiating determines what we will attract. Or on a more scientific definition, whichever thought patterns you are giving the most time and energy to become your dominant neural pathways. And then the subconscious mind will actively look for things that agree with those thought patterns and will filter everything out so that you notice things that agree with your thought patterns. So, by the way, I'm not saying that it is illegal or super bad if you feel any negative thoughts or emotions, because we're human beings and we're allowed to, feel all the emotions. But we can decide, what do we want to carry forwards with us? And we can also decide, have there been any patterns of thought, patterns of energy, patterns of habits, actions that perhaps have not been serving us and where we want to go. So I'll just let you think on that for a few moments. And you can jot down any of these things. Some of these thoughts may feel very hard to identify because we don't even recognize them as thoughts. It's just like, that's how my life has been lately. Life has been really stressful. Nothing's been working for me. Everything's been a struggle. Manifestation's not working. Everything's been really, really hard. I haven't had enough time. Those are all thoughts. That is how you are currently seeing your reality. And you might say, Lucie, that's not how I'm seeing it, that's how it is. Well, you are reinforcing it. If you continue to choose to tell yourself those stories, those neural pathways get stronger, and our subconscious mind then finds more evidence to back it up. So if you don't want your future to continue recreating the same patterns of your past, you get to intercept the process. You get to take back control. You get to start intentionally telling yourself a new story so that you add more energy to that thought pattern, so that your subconscious mind starts to believe it, so that it becomes your default setting, so that then, as you move forwards in life, you will start to see life through that new filter, which will lead to you noticing things that are in your favor,